So I had the opportunity to play Diablo 4 extensively in the early access, and I thought I'd give my 2 cents here. Diablo 4 is the upcoming action role-playing game developed by Blizzard Entertainment, and it is the 4th installment in the Diablo franchise. The game is set in a dark gothic world, and it features an immersive storyline that follows after Diablo 3 naturally. Players can choose one of 5 customizable character classes, which is new for the series, so you can play the Barbarian, the Sorceress, the Druid, Rogue, or the Necromancer, and the game offers single and multiplayer modes. Now, it depends on what you prefer to play, but, the option is there. One of the biggest changes about Diablo 4 is the introduction of the open world environment, allowing you to basically explore one of 5 zones. These are filled with dungeons and treasures and open world bosses, and it's really nice. And you can also have the addition of the mounts, which is nice. You can traverse the landscape much faster that way because the map is absolutely huge. But what immediately struck me was the art style harkening back to Diablo 2. I'm happy to see that Diablo is going back to its roots after Diablo 3. Diablo 3 always felt a bit like comic relief. It's very colorful, it wasn't really fitting in the scene of Diablo, but now it's going back. So it's in the dark macabre-like setting, it's gothy, it's horror, it's great. You really feel the intended setting in the level design in Diablo 4 with grotesque twisting and turning at every corner during the dungeons. Like gore-laden corridors, corpse-covered walls, stuff like this, It really makes it feel like Diablo is Diablo at every turn, which is a very sharp contrast to D3. I felt that D3, you could basically copy and paste it from any other ARPG. It looked very similar, but Diablo 4 has a very distinctive art style. It's very good. The visuals are amazing to say the least. The character models are sculpted perfectly with veins popping out the Barbarian and even small birthmarks on the backs of our characters. I found the level of detail just incredible, and the Blizzard design team have outdone themselves once again, and there's no doubt in my mind that the Blizzard design team are always so good when it comes to their video games. How about the gameplay though? Admittedly, we only get to play up to level 25 and play on World Tier 2 in the early access. So there's a lot of content missing. We only get to play one zone and we are in Act 1. But my initial impressions were good. Combat felt weighty and meaningful, and the Barbarian ripping through enemies with their whirlwind felt great, and the Sorks delivering crushing meteors felt great. Although, admittedly, there is some issues with class balancing, so I'm hoping that will be addressed. Everything felt just right though when it came to using these characters. The combat is not only visceral in its feel, but also its looks and its sounds, which is vital for an ARPG, and especially an ARPG of this standard and lineage. The Last Epoch, Grim Dawn, Undecember, Lost Ark, these all have great gameplay premises but fail to deliver on certain things. Lost Ark has great combat, but it is pay to win. Grim Dawn, Last Epoch, and Undecember have tremendous gameplay premises, but the feel of the gameplay doesn't deliver, in my opinion. It's not satisfying. Games like Lost Ark did so well when it came to the combat and the boss fights, but it came at the cost of arguably egregious monetization, which I'm hoping Diablo 4 doesn't lean into, because otherwise we'll be taking a stride towards Diablo Immortal, and we all know how that went.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
Some fans have expressed concerns over the game's potential monetization model, with rumors of microtransactions and a possible subscription model. There have also been criticisms of the game's slow development and lack of updates, but this is prior to the beta, but still we haven't had much communication when it came to Diablo. Now, whether the game will be ready to launch on the 6th of June is another question. In my playtime, I noticed a number of frame drops in the main hub area. This could be because of the crossplay, alongside some strange AI combat behavior. It often felt unpredictable and unwieldy to engage with, and sometimes the enemies would just run away from you when you chase them. It's a bit weird. However, the main concern for me is the endgame loop and what that may entail. For instance, we get many loot drops, but most of them only provide minor stat benefits. You have different classes. You have the normal, you have the rare, the uniques, the legendary, and I'm sure you'll have the primal and the ancients, akin to Diablo 3. And that's where, you know, the set bonuses will come together. But before that period of time, you know, a lot of the loot that you get feels quite meaningless unless you have a very specific role on a legendary that benefits the build that you're playing from. You see, the skill tree is quite vast, borrowing from Path of Exile. And I really thought that was an interesting innovation here because, you know, the loot has to line up with the skills. And it's going to be interesting to see when you get to the end game how we are going to be able to theory craft these builds to line up with everything. And not to mention the Paragon system as well, which obviously if you've played Diablo before, you know exactly what I mean by that. Incremental buffs to stat bonuses, etc. Now, when it comes back to the actual physical gameplay and then what we'll be doing, I hope that it leans away from Diablo 3 in the sense that I don't want to do greater rifts 100 times over ad nauseum to get like my primal ancient gear for it to push me 10 or 20 more greater rift levels. I hope that there is a more challenging and engaging endgame loop for Diablo 4 because ultimately that's what's going to cause it to be successful in the long run or not. We'll see if the season by season gameplay is fluid enough where you can keep returning to it. I think that's where a lot of people dropped off in Diablo 3. The season by season gameplay just wasn't enticing enough. It didn't follow the same kind of vertical progression that you'd find in something like Path of Exile, where there's always a new mechanic to learn and there's new builds to make. Overall, I think Diablo 4 has generated a lot of excitement and anticipation from its fans, you know, with the dark immersive world, the customizable character classes, and the new gameplay mechanics. I'm hoping it leads more into the Lost Ark style of boss fights, you know, where there's actual mechanics to do, because that would be a really engaging concept to deal with across multiple characters. I like the fact that you can customize your character, make it look and feel how you want, although saying that, the customizable options were not that varied, and so you often find a lot of people looking the same, but everyone only plays Diablo for its gameplay, and this is the main concern that I've had, is whether the longevity of the game is in question here. The dungeons can feel very repetitive, class balance seems off, and you know, there are very simplified ARPG mechanics borrowed from other games, and time will tell whether these mechanics will fall in line with the endgame grind. Like I said earlier, if the gameplay loop is satisfying, Diablo 4 will be successful. If the dungeons are anything to go by though, we could be in a repetitive journey, and although the world is excellently crafted and the visual design is absolutely phenomenal and the tremendous voice acting is present in every corner, there's a lot of work to do. You know, there's a lot of work to do in the gameplay loop, and I really hope that they can kind of smoothen out the experience, bring in the class balance back into focus, because right now, Sorks versus Barbs, there's a very vast difference in power level. I didn't really get to play much of the Deadeye, so we'll see what the Deadeye says later on. But right now, I think that we can lean more into the gameplay mechanics and smoothing it out, and that will make hopefully most people happy with playing Diablo. Most people will play through the Diablo story, maybe run a couple of rifts, but it'll be the hardcore audience who are, you know, playing it season by season, trying to get the best gear, trying to get to the end game the fastest. And I think this is like such an important part of Diablo. Big streamers have said that, you know, that's the main thing that they are focused on. It's the end game loop and how good that is. And whether you play the seasonal content or not, I suppose it's irrelevant if the end game grind is bad. So anyways, guys, that's it from me. This is just a short impressions video. Again, I'm going to be playing the open beta next weekend for the new classes, and there's a lot of things coming up in the next couple of months. I still have a couple of reviews in the progress, so expect those in the next week or two. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Catch me on stream on twitch.tv/beardedbreakdown. Come say hi and let me know what you think in the comments of Diablo 4. I'd be really interested in hearing your opinions. Hit me up. And anyway, see you guys and have a good week. Bye.